some crazy stuff going on with this Travis Scott concert. Not a show, I guess Drake was there too, not a show that you'd see me at or even my family at. But real uncomfortable situation and a horrible situation as 8 people have lost their lives. 200 people got injured at the AstroWorld show at Houston's NRG Park. Takes me back to 1979, man. Every time I hear about any type of a stampede or anybody losing life at a show, regardless of what the genre is, it always takes me back to that show at the Cincinnati Coliseum back in 1979. My brother was at that show. I was a little too young. I was 13 years of age at that time. People outside the venue heard the Who doing a sound check inside. It was festival seating. Festival seating, for you little booger bears that don't know about it, that's where it first come, first serve. You sit wherever you want. That was the same situation at AstroWorld, the AstroWorld show, where if you got there early enough and you could get near the front and you could push hard enough, you could get near the front and get the best seats. And unbeknownst to a lot of people who were waiting outside the Coliseum back in 1979, they were walking over dead bodies and didn't even realize it. There were so many people outside. They heard the music start. They thought it was the actual show. Why in the world would the doors be closed? I don't know. And so they pushed their way through, and 11 people lost their lives. And as a matter of fact, I think it was in The Guardian, Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend were interviewed about that particular show. They hadn't been back to Cincinnati in, 40 years? They did a show there for the first time in almost 40 years. They said that night still haunts them. Roger says, I can't go to sleep knowing that 11 people lost their lives at one of our shows. He said, it haunts me to this day, and Pete Townsend expounded on that as well. And again, my brother actually was one of the ones that got in early, and so by the time he left, he saw the carnage, he saw the blood, and he saw the clothes, and he saw the bodies, and he saw the ambulances. Like, what the hell happened? A lot of people that were at that show didn't even realize what had happened. At the Travis Scott concert last week, evidently a lot of people did know what was going on. Were asking security. And by the way, it was 500 strong. There were 300 personnel there, I guess, with the Travis Scott posse that were actually looking after people. And, of course, if you've ever been to a Travis Scott concert, and I have not again, I don't want to say he incites riots, but he incites a really, really good time. He asks fans to come on stage. He asks fans to be rough with each other. And, by the way, he has been arrested for actually inciting riots at other shows. A 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, 2 21-year-olds, 2 23-year-olds, and a 27-year-old lost their life. These aren't 65-year-old people. But if you're 65, you're probably not at a Travis Scott concert anyway. But these were young, fit people who got caught up in a huge mosh. And I was trying to think, were there any situations during my career, and maybe you can chime in this morning, and Sean's watching, Scott Jackson's watching right now. Was there ever a situation where you were in a situation where it felt really dicey? I can think of one situation where I was down at Lynn Park for one of the City Stages shows, and I cannot recall what the band was. And for the most part, most of those bands, there were some hip-hop bands down there, but for the most part, there were the Leonard Skinnards and the Doobie Brothers and shows. Obviously, we're not going to be moshing and people pushing and shoving, but it was a festival seating situation. And I can remember one situation where, I've got pretty big feet. And so when I know that I'm going to have people around me, and I'm also claustrophobic, so it kind of freaks me out, but when I know I got people around me, I will try to put up my elbows a little bit to give myself a little room. Like you're in a crowded elevator, though, the minute you bring your arms in, people will crowd around you because people are trying to get to the front. I was about a third of the way back, had no reason to get any closer, had no reason to go back. But I could feel the push from behind me enough that I started leaning like this, and my feet left the ground. And I was like, okay, this is not a good situation. And there wasn't really anywhere to go. They had the barricades up, I guess, 10, 15 feet in front of the stage. And unbeknownst to the people and the security guards that were in the front, and nothing happened again. But it made me feel just a little uncomfortable. I've been to thousands of concerts. I've been to hip-hop concerts. I've been to rap concerts. I've been to country concerts. I've been to gospel concerts. Hell, I've been to a Barry Manilow concert. Don't tell anybody. But I've always known that whenever you have a situation where you have a large contingency of fans, and again, if you're talking 1,000 fans, it's one thing. If you're talking 50,000, like we're at this show, you're going to have some issues. The first lawsuit was filed, by the way, yesterday against Travis Scott and Drake and Live Nation, not to mention the venue itself, Houston's NRG Park. And this is going to go on for a while, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and the friends of these 8 individuals who lost their life and all the people that got injured. If you see any of the video, it's horrible. There's people doing CPR, there's ambulances everywhere, and then the concert goes on. And what Travis is catching hell over is the fact that the concert did not end for an additional 40 minutes until after the carnage. And as a performer on stage, you have to be cognizant, I would think, and maybe this is something I can ask Damon Johnson this week on his show, which will, again, air on Friday night at 8 o'clock. Are you cognizant of what's going on stage while you're looking out over the crowd? Because obviously I would think that'd be the best seat in the house too, right? You can see what's going on. There was also another part of this particular show that is really disturbing that, quite frankly, no one's talking about. Evidently, there was some dude running through the crowd with a syringe, needling people. Did I read that right? I read up several stories where people actually got stuck in the neck. I don't know how many, but were despondent, couldn't react to anything. And again, I'm not sure why people would do that, but there were evidently individuals at the concert taking syringes, and I don't know what was in the syringe. I don't know what the situation was, but just randomly stabbing people at a concert. I'm good. I've done enough drugs and alcohol. I've got my own stuff. I don't need your stuff. Thanks. Don't be spiking my drink or stab me in the neck with a needle. I can take care of myself. If I want to get messed up, I've been there, done that. But just a weird situation. If you go back and look at a lot of different groups of people that have been stampeded, the majority of them are at soccer matches. Soccer fans are crazy, man. I ain't kidding you now. If you go back through just large public crowd stampedes, I think out of the 50, 48 of them were like soccer matches. Man, they get after it. But there have been some rock shows where obviously there's been some loss of life in the 1979. My brother, who was at that 1979 Who concert, actually took a day off school to go downtown. This is where you had to stand in line, right? We didn't have the internet. So if you wanted to get great seats for a concert, you had to sit outside the Magic Platter or sit outside Parisians used to be one. I think it was Ticketmaster or Ticket Link or something. I don't know, one of these ticket places. When U2 came to town and played Legion Field, I did my show for an entire week outside. I think the Magic Platter was. We set up a tent and we slept there all night, and you had to hold your spot. That's how you got good seats. And you could either do that or you could call on the phone. And of course, if you're calling like 3 or 4 hours at a time, it's just busy until finally someone rings and you'd actually talk to an operator and they order your tickets, and then you'd end up being in the 10th row. And you're like, dude, I sat in line for 3 days. I'm in the 10th row. But that's how you got tickets. So my brother took a day off to go ahead and get tickets. They used to release, I think it was like 10 o'clock in the morning when they'd release tickets for a particular show. And so he took school off. Truancy officer comes to the house. My dad's like, what's going on? He's like, hey, your son was out, during school day, blah, 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 blah. He got grounded. And as a punishment, my dad said, okay, you're not going to that Who concert. It's not happening. And then about 7:30 at night, my brother, who was down in the basement, crawled through a window and ended up going to the concert anyway, and then found out that 11 people lost their lives at that Who concert back in 1979. It was horrible. We'll keep you updated on these concerts. For the most part, I always think, though, when I go to a concert, it's a safe place for me. I've been to enough concerts. I know enough people that whenever I go, it's not a church or a school, but whenever I go to a concert, I feel incredibly comfortable. And maybe, again, it's the type of concerts I go to. I've been to Judas Priest concerts. I've been to Iron Maiden concerts. I've been to a Korn concert. I've been to some concerts where they get after a little bit, but, at the age of 55, I'm like, dude, I'm out a little bit. If I'm going to a concert and I'm walking over with a bloody nose and I said I had a good time, something's messed up. Now, I've been on the floor before. But I've never walked out of a concert with a broken arm and a bloody nose and said, wow, that was a great time. Let's do it again tomorrow night. AstroWorld show. You won't see me at it. Travis Scott is being sued for it. And by the way, Him and his lovely bride, she is, have come out and said they're absolutely devastated by all the fear that it is installed, not only in his concerts, but in rap concerts in general. And they're devastated by the news, and their thoughts and prayers go out to him. But again, you're also talking about Travis Scott, who was accused of inciting a riot during a show at the Walmart, Arkansas Music Pavilion back in 2017. He was also charged over music festivals in Arkansas in 2017 and in Chicago in 2015 for whipping up hysteria and encouraging moshing that left a security guard and concert goers injured. He pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct, reportedly in a sweetheart deal with prosecutors to avoid more serious charges. Weeks later, one of Scott's Manhattan concerts became so chaotic, one of his fans fell off a balcony and was paralyzed. Plaintiff Kyle Green, then 23, claims Scott made matters worse by ordering his security guards to drag the badly injured young man's limp body to the stage so the rapper could try to give him his ring as a consolation prize. In the interview Saturday, Green's lawyer told Rolling Stone that his client was devastated and furious over the most recent tragedy. He said, "I'm devastated and heartbroken for the families of those who were killed, but I knew it was coming. It was going to happen again. Someone was going to lose their life at a Travis Scott concert." A couple interesting stories here. First of all, I just posted an amazing video of this 11-year-old who's getting after it, Nandi Bushell. This girl, man, oh my gosh. I love when I see kids who just have this natural gift to play instruments. Everything I do in my life is super hard. Like whenever I've learned to do anything, I got to take lessons for like 4 or 5 years. It was a marching band, playing trumpet. I played trumpet for 14 years, never really got good at it. Piano, baseball, anything I've tried, I have to really, really try at it. Even radio. I did radio for like 6 or 7 years. I was going to quit because I have to work really, really hard at it, and I've still got a ways to go. But this little 11-year-old girl is jamming with Roger Taylor of Queen. It is amazing. Go to Tony Curry Radio on Twitter or the Tony Curry Radio page on Facebook and check out that video. Good man alive. It's fantastic. We're always looking for some Christmas gifts. I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't know what's going on with the time continuum. I don't know if it's because I just went through a messy divorce. I'm 55, whatever it is. Time is flying by. And I'm not the only one that's saying it. And the harder and the faster and the more I get done, the faster it goes. Saturday, I took my kids to the UAB football game. Huge win, thanks to Mark Ingram and Brad Hardikoff and the entire crew for taking care of the family. We had a great time. And, man, we were just all over each other. It was wonderful. And Saturday was just gone, and then I don't even know what happened yesterday. I mean, I'm not even taking naps anymore. Anyway, time is flying, and we got Christmas coming up. I know, right? Seriously. We got like 47 days to shopping days. I'm like, okay, 47 days. 47 days right now feels like next Thursday. So if you're looking for some great ideas and you have a rock and roller on your list, and I just also tweeted out this story, this online shop toy called bogey.co.uk, it's BOOGHE, is stocking up on special editions of Monopoly boards with your favorite classic rock bands. They're already out of the Queen board, but they have an AC/DC board. They have Rolling Stones. David Bowie fans let you travel station to station. Stone lovers, you'll need to steer clear of the tumbling dice. It's funny. Fans could be under pressure as online toy show bogey.co.uk is already out of that stock. The Birmingham-based retailer, that's Birmingham, England, aims to sell 70,000 rock Monopoly sets by December 25th. I don't think they're going to have a problem. The rock version of Monopoly, launched by Hasbro in 1939, allowed players to collect albums, attend tours, and hire musicians as they play. Other games, Michael Jackson, Metallica, AC/DC, Elvis, and the Beatles. How cool is that? There's some kickbacks to the Beatles. Speaking of the Beatles, Paul McCartney has been incredibly transparent and incredibly outspoken lately, and he said some things that I'm like, whatever. He's Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney is up here. Everyone else is like 15 feet below him. He can do or say whatever he wants, and he's still Paul McCartney, and he'll always have my respect. He's the greatest songwriter of our time. But he's been talking a lot about John lately. And, of course, he just came out with his brand new book called The Lyrics 1956 to the Present. You know, whenever someone has a book, they talk a lot. Ask Katie Couric. And they're everywhere. As a matter of fact, Paul McCartney was on NPR the other day. And said something that was really, really ironic, considering they wrote a lot of songs about love. All you need is love, love me do, she loves you. He said he never got to tell John that he loved him. Isn't that amazing? He said, we got started, we were Liverpool kids, 16, 17-year-olds. He said you could never say that to another boy. You just couldn't do it. It just wasn't done. So I never did just say, John, I love you, man. He said, I never got around to it. Do you believe that? As long as they were together, and John didn't pass till 1980, I guess it kind of makes sense. He said, now I realize just how much I really love the man, and I never got a chance to say I love you to John. Isn't that interesting? I always have an interesting thing, and Dr. Josh would be good to talk about this, because I think I say I love you probably about 10 or 15 times a day. We've had Rachel Barbeau on the show. She says, I never say love ya, and I never say love you. I love you. That's it. If you love somebody, or LUV, love you. If you're going to love somebody, love them. If you love somebody, say I love you. Don't go halfway. Don't do ditto. Don't do LUV. Don't love ya. And I think a lot of guys feel a little uncomfortable about saying I love you to another man. My dad, and that was the generation we were in, never really said I love you a lot until I was a little older, and then I couldn't get enough of it. And I told him I love him every night. Now I tell my kids I love you probably about 4 or 5 times a day. I'll even go, hey, I love you. And they'll go, I love you too, Dad. Sometimes I do it because I'd like to hear someone say I love you back. But now my kids are getting pretty good at saying I love you first, which is just a wonderful thing. If you're having a difficult day, or you're just sitting there in your recliner reading whatever you're reading, you're on your phone, and one of your kids walks up to you and says, I love you, it's like the best thing in the world. It's like, or your wife or your husband or anyone you love. It's just great. And I don't think we could ever hear it enough. I think a lot of people think that when you overuse it, you don't mean that you mean it. Sure you do. I do. And the fact that Paul McCartney saying that he never said I love you to John Lennon is almost an impossibility to me. At some point, they had to be stoned or drunk or something. Someone had to say I love you. But they never did. He said, I never got a chance to tell the bloke I love him, and now he's gone, and now I just realize how much I love that guy. So great story. You can check that story out through Tony Kurre Radio. Go to TonyKurreRadio.net, TonyKurreRadio.net, and pull up the Rock News page. It's great. There's all kinds of great stories on there, including Izzy Stradlin. There's that story, the Queen's Roger Taylor Jam with an 11-year-old. There's also 10 science fiction sequels nobody needed, which is pretty interesting. So check that out. It's fantastic. Dark Side of the Pooch. It is, what do we talk about? We talked about taxidermying your pets. Dr. Rab Stewart from the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. It's one of our first shows we ever did. It's amazing how many people. It's a $100 billion industry. We all have pets. You got something. Whether it's a pet squirrel or a dog or a cat or something. So listen to the show later on tonight, 8 o'clock. Evidently, it is now in vogue or interesting or neat for people to taxidermy their pets. You got a polar bear, you got a bear, you got a deer head or something like that. I guess I get it. But people are actually taking their dogs and their cats. One case, one woman skinned her cat, and she made a cat rug. I didn't realize how big cats were. I mean, it's big enough you could almost sleep on when you skin the cat. And it's still got the head on it. It's weird. I was asking him about how many people like to actually take their pets home. So you go in, and it's unfortunate, but they have to put your pet down because it's too old, has cancer, whatever. He said, at least in Hoover, where Tony Kurre Radio is, you're not allowed to bury your pets in your backyard. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. And I was like, I've never heard that because I got like pet cemetery in my backyard. I'm not kidding you. I've got headstones all over the place. People actually think I've got bodies back there, and I do. But he said, yeah, 90% of all pets are cremated, and a lot of people like to hold on to the ashes of their beloved pet family member, and I kind of get that little. It's a little weird, but I'm not going to spend like $600-700 on a urine for Frisco dog. Sorry, Frisco, I love you and I love taking naps with you, and you're a good boy, but I'm not going to do it. Stop peeing in the hallway. I'm not going to do that. But now people have taken to another step, and they're actually taxidermying their pets. Also, while people are getting vaccinated, there's also the influenza vaccination, which I'm hoping people are going to be getting. We've kind of forgotten about that, haven't we? But evidently 800 dogs on the West Coast have contracted CIV, which is the influenza virus. And it seems to be making its way to the South and the East for the first time ever. Usually it just stays out there. I'm not sure why. We'll talk to Dr. Rab Stewart about that a little bit later on the show tonight, 8 o'clock. Adapter Parish tomorrow night with Dr. Alex Subline and, of course, our own Dr. Josh Klapow. Wednesday nights our Live Wire. Wednesday, Thursday nights our Blues show, Blues Almighty with Austin Hanks. He had Billy Gibbons on last week. He's got Jimmy Reed on this week. And then the Damon Johnson show, which is going to be coming up Friday. I love doing all these shows, and I love hosting these shows. I don't want to host all of them because I don't want to be all over the place because the Damon Johnson show, I said, man, this is your show, man. You do what you want. And so if you hear a show on this radio station, I don't have any creative licensing or direction for anybody because I trust everybody does a show. And so I'm like, Damon, this is your show, baby. You do what you want to do. And he's doing it. Last week, he did his top 6 Lynyrd Skynyrd songs of all time. And by the way, you can hear that show replay tomorrow at noon. It was fantastic. Oh, it was so good. His second show, which is going to be debuting again on Friday night, is his top 6 guitar solos of all time. And there's one guitar solo in there that I never even thought of. Again, he can pick any song he wants. It doesn't have to be played here on Tony Kurre Radio. It can be played anywhere. I don't care. And he picked a song that I was like, I never even thought of that. It is fantastic, man. It's great. Interesting story. We're talking about pets a little bit later on tonight at 8 o'clock, Dark Side of the Pooch, which is a show about pet care. I didn't think that I'd be able to get a year and a half out of a show like this, but, man, there's so much going on with dogs, and we also do mutt mail where you can send us questions. Go to TonyCurryRadio.net, TonyCurryRadio.net. Send me a question, and I'll read it for Dr. Rab Stewart from the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, Rossbridge Vet on Twitter. And we were talking about the taxidermy for your pet. If you shoot and kill something and you're proud of it, I get it. But more and more people now are wanting to fill Fifi and have him standing in the corner. Dr. Rab brought up a really interesting point on the show later on tonight at 8 o'clock. He's like, if you're going to have your dog or your cat, man, have it looking mean and have it sitting by the front door. I mean, if you're going to use it, you might as well use it for something else. He said, but to have a dog, he said in most cases when he has people that come in and say they want to taxidermy their pet, which has passed away, they have them lying down and looking comfortable, and they just place them in front of the fireplace. And I guess that gives them solace or some type of closure knowing that their dog is gone. I can't imagine ever doing that. Some people have skinned their dogs and cats and make rugs out of them. And they leave the head on. It's weird, man. Some strange stuff. But a lot of people like to do different things when they pass away. We actually talked about this on the Kurre and Klapow show several months ago. There's a lot of different things you can do with a body now. In the Catholic religion, it's got to be buried. We don't believe in cremation, although I know some Catholics that probably didn't even know that, and they have done that. But we like to have the open casket thing, and then we like to go through the whole burial situation, the funeral, and put the body in the ground and all those things, right? But there's a lot of different people that have come up with some different things. I know that at football games, some people have spread family members' ashes on football fields. I think someone did that at an Auburn game, right? On the kick six the kick six. Some people like to spread ashes over the ocean. I know friends of mine, I've actually been on a foursome on a golf course where someone brought some of their dad's ashes and spread it on a particular hole here in the Birmingham area, a hole that his dad loved to play. And whatever you want to do, it's fine. I watched The Big Lebowski enough to know that you don't ever want to throw it into the wind. This gal had a different way of doing it, though, and she thought it was great. She wanted to go out with a bang, literally. Family and friends of a UK college tutor who died of COVID fulfilled her wish to have her ashes scattered in a fireworks display. Yowza. It wasn't even brought up once. It was something that was mentioned quite frequently. The deceased sister said, she said, listen, when I die, I want my ashes blown up in fireworks. October 31st, fireworks honoring Donna Coleman, 42, in York, England, were blown off in the air. Put a little ashes and a bunch of things, and she just went up in a heap of fire. Interesting another way to perhaps. We've also had people that use their bodies, which sounds really disgusting, but they use their ashes in compost, and then they use those compost to actually put around new trees so the trees can actually grow with Uncle Ed in them. I don't know, that's weird. Talking about the Travis Scott tragedy that happened this past week. 8 people lost their life at a concert, AstroWorld show. Houston's NRG Park, a 14-year-old lost his life, 16, 21, 21, 23, 23, 27, just to mention a few of the lives lost, and over 200 people were injured. I have not been to a Travis Scott concert. I've heard about Travis Scott concerts only because his name has come up in the news before. He's been arrested, I think, twice for inciting a riot. He invites fans to come up on stage, dance with him. He also says he equates his shows to a WWE wrestling match, which doesn't sound like a hell of a lot of fun. If I'm walking away from a concert, I mean, I don't mind being deaf. I don't mind my ears bleeding. But if I got a bloody nose and I got bruises and a broken leg, that's not a good time to me. That's just me. Even back in my 20s, not so much. When the mosh pit started, I understood it, and they were kind of fun. I was never in one, but I've been at concerts with them. And I go back and think about my heavy metal days. The Iron Maidens and the Judas Priest and even the AC/DCs to an extent where, you had these kids just shaking their heads and you wonder how they're not getting concussions by the third song. And for the most part, whenever you went to a concert, you could do whatever you want. We used to have the lawn there at Oak Mountain Amphitheater, then they filled it in with seats, and I don't know if that was a liability or whatever it was. There are still amphitheaters across the country that have the seated area in the lawn. I never liked it because my underwear goes up my ass. I don't like it. Got your baby, got your blanket, got your bucket of beer. I know. Great for Buffett concerts, stuff like that. I understand that. But there's several places where I've always felt really safe. And a concert's one of those places where I never felt like anything could possibly go wrong. Despite the fact I've been around 100,000 people crowds of Rolling Stone concerts. I've been to 15 people at Iowa State fairs. And I get that. But for the most part, and I've been to enough concerts, I would venture to guess, outside someone who's actually in a band, I've probably been to more concerts than anyone listening right now. And I thoroughly enjoy the concert experience. Not even if I don't like the music or the venue, I like going to concerts just because I love the music and I just love to hear music. And I've been to country concerts, I've been to gospel concerts, I've been to concerts I've been to Barry Manilow concerts, for God's sakes. But the Travis Scott situation, again, bad things happen at shows. And it normally has something to do with the audience members in that show. If you know, my son wanted to go to this Legion Field thing where it was a group of hip-hop artists several months ago. And I said, no. And he's like, Dad, you don't like that type of music. And I don't like that. Da-da-da. And I said, listen, one of the dudes who's performing shot somebody. You're not going, period. I'm not being your friend here. I don't care if you're 27 years old. If you're living here, you're not going. I said, when one of the acts has shot and killed somebody, that ain't the kind of concert I want my son going to. I said, you can listen to it on your phone. I said, if I can go with you, and of course he didn't want me to go with him, I said, then we're not going, period. But even Legion Field, you can kind of navigate the area and have your own narrative on what kind of danger you want to get into. Whenever you have large groups of people, you could certainly make an argument at college football games. It gets a little rowdy. We've seen fights and all kinds of things like that. But as far as something like this, where a multitude of people have lost their life, it's just it's preventable. And then when you have an artist, and I know Drake was part of this too. I don't know if he was the one incited anything. When you have an artist who has the propensity, and has certainly done it in the past, he's been arrested for it, right? That he wants to incite. There's one thing about having fun and a good time. I can't imagine going to a show where, just running into people and walking away again with bruises and broken bones and bloody noses is fun to people. I don't get that. I don't understand that. If that's your thing, knock yourself out. but that's not the kind of show I want to go to. I want to go and enjoy the music. And listen, I'm one guy that will tell you that the music is a big part of the night. That's what you're there for. But there is about a 20% part that is contingent on the crowd and what we're doing on whether the show is a 4 or a 9. Because the band feeds off of the crowd. I've been to a lot of concerts where I'm the only dude standing. People are telling me to sit down. I'm like, I paid $150 for the seat, and it's AC/DC. I'm not sitting down. I'm going to get after it. I want to enjoy it. And I think the band gets into that. I've seen some bands, quite frankly, that I've seen them sit in front of people where everyone's sitting down, and Birmingham's got a good track record of this, where a lot of people say we kind of sit on our hands. But when you're up and you're getting after it and you're getting rowdy, the band plays off that pitch. They feel that energy and they get off on it, and they end up putting on a better show. Sometimes they play extra songs. So I get that from a Travis Scott situation, but this is just unfortunate. Then the whole story about the dude stabbing people with needles. What the hell? What the hell? I thought drugs were expensive. I thought why would you be going around with a syringe stabbing people in the neck trying to get people high? I don't get that. That is just weird. Is that something that happens at Travis? Does that happen at rap concerts where dudes are walking around with drugs, stabbing people in necks and legs with syringes? There was one security guy that was bound unconscious because some dude stuck him in the neck with a needle. What the hell? What the hell? That's not the kind of show I want to go to. And I know a lot of people were at that thing. It was AstroWorld show. I know there was a lot of different artists down there, and Travis Scott more than likely is going to have an arrest out of this whole thing. There's already been a couple of lawsuits. And I'll be honest with you, and this is just the dad in me coming out, my 14-year-old sure is telling, I don't care if it was Motley Crue. If I knew Motley Crue concerts, and I've been to some good Motley Crue concerts now. I think I actually had a bloody nose at one of those. It was for a different reason. I was backstage. If you're going to a Motley Crue concert, man, and it's getting after it, and you want to get into that kind of behavior, that's fine. But my 14-year-old ain't going to that concert, and it just breaks my heart to see someone lost their 14-year-old son at a concert. There's so many different, there's drive-by shootings, there's bullets going through windows, there's people getting beat and thrown on subways and all that stuff, and it's horrible. But man, to lose your life at a concert just does not make sense to me. It's just not what it's supposed to be. And if you're an artist and you're inciting that type of behavior, because for the most part, the artists want people to stay alive and have a good time because they want them to come back to their shows, right? I know Travis and what his lovely bride, we know that situation. She's already come out and said, we're devastated. Well, then why is he up there telling people to beat the shit out of each other during his concert? I don't get it. What is that? What are we doing? That's the kind of dude you want to hang out with? I don't understand it.